Guys, there's so much I wish I had known about running when I first started that would have made it so much more enjoyable for me. So today I want to take you through 4 things that, had I known 15 to 20 years ago, would have made my life so much easier as a runner. Chances are you've seen people down at the athletics track or before a race going through these what look like ridiculous motions, and if you're anything like what I was when I first saw it, you're wondering what on earth are they doing. I wanted to encourage you guys to consider implementing some drills into your pre-run routine. But the big question is, why on earth do we do them? And then once we've answered that question, how do we do them? So for many of us, our lives are quite sedentary. The problem with that is we don't tap into a whole heap of different ranges of motion. When you consider sitting down all day, obviously everything's sort of in one place. Your hips are where they are, your legs are where they are, your back's where it is, and that's just the way it is for the day. Then you get up, you walk around, and though you're stretching your body out a little bit, you're getting out of your chair, you're still not really extending that range of motion. The beauty of some of these drills that look ridiculous if you're not used to seeing them is that it gives us the opportunity to do something which is quite exaggerated. It's quite different to the average range of motion. Now, the beauty of doing something like that before a run is if we can really open up these joints that just haven't really been worked out or haven't really been accessed on any deep level just before a run, it's going to give us the opportunity just to feel so much better when we are standing on that start line. So with each of these drills, you're going to do 3 reps of about 10 to 15 meters, and then just walk back, let your body recover, catch your breath a little bit, and go again. The first one that we're going to do is simply high knees. Now, high knees is just an opportunity for us, as I mentioned a moment ago, to really break out of that constant stagnant state of motion that we find ourselves in. So these exaggerated knee lifts are a really good opportunity to open up our hips. It's a really good opportunity to practice some of that speed and some of that bounce off the ground. It's a good speed reflex so that when your foot hits the ground, your mind's being trained to get it back up there really quickly. With this one, you're going to try and keep your shoulders as relaxed as you possibly can. You don't want them going up around your ears by any means, because that's just practicing inefficient technique with our upper body. Then as you take off, your goal is not length of stride but height of knee. So if you get your knees up and around your hip height or slightly above, and you're swinging your arms like a sprinter in conjunction or in coordination with your leg movement. So your goal is not necessarily to go super fast straight away. You might increase it. So the first 5 meters is quite slow, the second 5 meters is a little bit quicker, that final 5 meters you're really going quick. The second drill that I wanted to show you, similar to what we were doing with that last exercise, we're lifting our knees up and then we're kicking our leg out straight. You don't need your knees to be up around your head. Simply up around your waist is a really good opportunity for those hips to be stretched out, and then as you kick that foot out, you're going to be stretching the hamstring of the leg that's kicking out. So you'll notice this is a little bit difficult if coordination's not a strong point, but over time and practice, it's going to get easier for you. So you want it to be a controlled movement. It doesn't have to be fast. The goal here is to open up our hips, open up our hammies, and to just get those legs loosened up for the faster running that we're about to do. And lucky last, perhaps the easiest one to tap into some of the speed that we have hidden within those legs are our bum kicks. Now, our bum kicks are an opportunity just to tap into our quads, to get the feet off the ground quite quickly, and to almost tap into our inner sprinter. So 3 by 15 meters with a walk back recovery with 5 meter increments. The first 5 meters relatively slow, the second 5 meters pick it up, the last 5 meters really aim to kick your heels up to your bum as fast as you possibly can and get your foot off the ground as fast as you possibly can. So you don't necessarily need to do this before an easy run. However, if you wanted to practice before an easy run, you can. The goal here is just to make sure that we are ready for our faster runs. So before a session, here's how I'd introduce these particular drills. I would go for a 10 to 15 minute very slow jog for a warm-up. I'll do a couple of stationary stretches, go for a couple of 100 meter strides, just gradually building up the pace, and then insert these drills after that to get that body moving just before we do some faster strides before we move over to the start line of the race. There's no doubt that having a mobility exercise routine can make a big impact on how we feel when we're running. Now, myself, I like to do some more extended mobility routines. I try and do yoga 3 times a week, a strength one, a yoga flow, and then a yin yoga. A couple of things which really tap into some deeper style stretches. But if you wanted to incorporate something into your routine that you might not have, I would encourage just 2 or 3 times a week to spend about 10 to 15 minutes stretching. You can do it before you run if you feel good doing it that way. You can do it after you run if you prefer to do it that way. Or if you just want to have some time to just relax and unwind, you can do it at the end of your evening before dinner, or a little bit after dinner while you're watching a movie. So it really doesn't matter how you do it. It is a great thing to do before a run because you feel better once you start running, but it's also a great thing to do just to stretch out those sore muscles once you've done the run. So I'm going to show you 4 different stretches which are my real favorites, just because of how much they really tap into a deep stretch within me, and how much they allow me just to open up the joints that I wouldn't otherwise get a chance to tap into. So the first one is I think that in yoga they call this one a yogi squat. So it's quite a deep stretch, and you can always get a block to put under your bum if you're having a little bit of trouble reaching the full squat. But essentially what you're doing, you're having your feet at about shoulder width apart, and you're just coming into the old squat, and get a little bit more of a stretch through your groin if you want to push your elbows out to the inside of your knees. But you're really opening up your hips here, so you'll feel this all through the outside of your quads. You'll feel this through your groin. If you hold this for anywhere between sort of 30 to 45 seconds, that's a great place to start. The second one, which is a little bit more of an active stretch, it targets our groins, our hamstrings, and our hips, and it looks like this. You can do this one for about a minute. You simply, with your feet probably 30 centimeters wider than shoulder width apart, you're simply putting your weight from your down to your right side, so you feel this all through your groin. If you want a bit more through the hamstring, you can simply lift that toe up, which is the way I usually target it, and then you're going back to the other side. So this is targeting a whole heap of joints and muscles that we're going to use as runners, which just quite often we ignore when it comes to the nurturing and the warming up part of these muscles. So if you do that for about 30 to 45 seconds, that's going to make a huge impact to how you feel. All right, the second last one I want to show you, which is just an absolute classic for your hips. In yoga they call this one the pigeon pose. You're putting your right foot up, so you've got your hands up there, you're putting your right foot up just to the inside of your left hand. Now you want to try and keep your front leg as close to 90 degrees as you possibly can, but that's quite an intense stretch, so don't stress if you can't reach it, or if you can't quite get that angle. And you're going to feel this all up through your glute. It's just a fantastic hip opener, fantastic glute stretch, and you can hold this for about 30 to 45 seconds on each side. You can make it a static or a stationary as you like. I quite enjoy just stationary stretches where you're not having to move quite a lot. I just like that deep stretch that something like this allows me to hit. The last stretch, this one's great if you've got a towel or a t-shirt or something just to wrap around your foot. It's really going to open up your hamstring. So you're simply going to lay on your back, foot up in the air, and you can latch a towel over your foot if you've got one. Otherwise you can just do what I do and grab your ankle or sort of midway through your calf, and you're just pulling that leg toward you. If you want to increase the stretch a little bit, push your leg down against your hands and you'll really feel that open up here. And then when you relax that push, you might find you've got a bit more of a range of movement through that hamstring. Too often we'll be out on an easy run, we'll start to notice our body feels quite good, we'll start to think, we feel quite fresh, maybe we pick up the pace a little bit. And before you know it, that easy run or that jog, it turns into a little bit of a time trial, or it turns into a bit of a threshold. From time to time, I get it, the excitement of that moment gets the better of us. But the only problem is when we start to do that on a daily basis, when we start to notice ourselves just picking up that pace constantly, looking at our Garmin's if we have them, comparing where we were in our last run on the same course to where we are today and how we felt, it gets a little bit too much for us to try and get our heads around. And I think when our head gets really involved in the running process and we start overthinking all the little elements of the run, it makes it less enjoyable. So having a reason for the run just helps us keep ourselves in check. So for example, if you're out on an easy run and before you go for that easy run, you know that that's the reason that you're going out there for. So if you go out and you're feeling really sluggish, it's like, hey, don't worry, it's an easy run. If you go out and you're feeling really good, you go, hey, this is an easy run, there's no need to pick up the pace. We know. I think that understanding of the session, understanding why it is that we're doing this session and how it is that we're supposed to feel is a really beneficial thing to practice. Another little tip that I'll give you is, if you notice that you're running a lot by yourself and you're starting to feel a little bit bored on those runs and you're just hanging out for the end of that run, that's another thing that makes it less enjoyable. So having a podcast that you enjoy, that you can look forward to listening to, is a really good strategy. Obviously, we've got a relaxed running podcast which might capture your fancy, being a runner yourself, that you can check out. One more thing that I really like doing as well is planning which direction I go. Now, sometimes I like to be organized and I like to plan. Sometimes I just like to follow my feet and see where I end up. But jumping on Google Maps or jumping on Google and just having a bit of a look around for some popular runs in that area, finding out if there's any trails, if there's any bike paths, if there's anything that's a little more interesting to you to keep you entertained while you run, it can be really valuable as well. So when it comes to nutrition, there's a couple of different ways that we can look at this. The first one is, what do we eat the night before a run? And then what do we eat a couple of hours before or just before a run to make sure that we've got something in our tummy, we don't feel super weak and super light. So the first one the night before that I like to have, which you can tell by the fact that this bag's pretty much empty, is just a brown rice. Brown rice is, it's high in carbohydrates, but they're released quite slowly through your body. Brown rice has like a gradual release of that energy. So over a longer period of time, you can imagine if you're a long distance runner, marathon, half marathon, even 10K, you're gonna wanna have that slow release carbohydrate just to keep you energized throughout that run. When it is a couple of hours before your run, what you're going to want to do is make sure you've got something in your tummy, something just to keep those energy levels up. So for me, there's a few things that I like to have. First of all, I'm a massive fan of sourdough bread with just like a healthy peanut butter. This peanut butter, it's just 100% peanuts, got your good fats in there, and it's quite light. It doesn't leave you at the start line of your run feeling like, oh my gosh. So I'll probably have 2 pieces of that with a couple of scoops of peanut butter, no closer than an hour before my run, ideally like 90 minutes before the run. For breakfast, you can tell I'm a massive fan of oats. Now, what I want to just give you a little bit of pretext is oats are very high in fiber as well. So be careful with how many you have, because it can leave you going to the toilet. I generally have about a cup of oats, about 2 hours, 2.5 hours before I go out for my run. Same story as the bread. It's low, it's high carbohydrates, but they're released quite slowly into your body, which keeps you nice and sustained. Also not really heavy, which is a great thing. Say, for example, you are like an hour out from your run. You don't have anything accessible like the oats or the bread or anything like that. Just the classic old banana is a great one to have in your fruit bowl. I'll have probably a banana. If I don't have the bread, I'll have it an hour and a half before the run. Same story. Nice, high carbohydrates released slowly into your blood, not super heavy as well. It's a really good option. I used to always make the mistake of just going to the fruit bowl. I love fruit. I would eat apples and I would eat pears, and I would smash myself with those kind of fruits, which are very high energy, very high fiber, but also quite high sugar, which is just released quickly into your body. It's a recipe for disaster. Trust me, I've had too many close calls where I've been desperate to find a toilet, if you know what I mean. So be cautious with your fruit. If you do want to help just flush this food through your system, get a bit of an energy boost as well. A couple of hours before a run, I enjoy black coffee. It's going to help with the digestion of that food. Don't have it too close to your run. Just like apples, it can go straight through your system. But generally a couple of hours before the run, just after a meal, that's a really popular option. I know for myself, I'll even take like an espresso shot about an hour before I go out for my warm-up of a session, just to give me that energy boost, just to make sure that I can duck into the loo. But I would recommend no closer than an hour before your run. What you're wanting to avoid is just that really quick rush of energy and that really quick plummet of energy. So the foods that I've recommended there are some good options. Also things like potatoes, if that's more your style. Trial and error. Let me know in the comments what works for you, because the truth is I've spoken to so many runners over the year and different things work for different people. They're simply a couple of my favorites which have helped me keep fueled and feeling good for my runs. Guys, if you're enjoying this content, we also have a Relax Running membership which is available at relaxrunning.com. This membership, it has a number of features which I'm sure you're going to enjoy. I know our members already do. We've got training programs from the 5K all the way through to the marathon, from beginner, intermediate and advanced. So there's something there to fit all levels of athlete. We also have a video library where we ask expert, not only runners, but experts in the field of running, questions about how it is that we can deal with common running issues. So if you wanted to find out about the best way to train, the best shoes to wear, we've got podiatrists, we've got sports doctors, we've got coaches, we've got Olympians, national record holders, we've got dietitians, exercise physiologists, and some of the most respected names in the sport sharing their insight. We have training programs which are being added regularly, a 28-day challenge for people who are new to running or just want a little bit of a kick in the butt to get their training going. If you wanted to check it out, you can go to relaxrunning.com and click on the Relax Running membership. Otherwise, guys, that is about enough from me. I really hope you enjoy it. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you're enjoying this stuff, guys, please subscribe. And hey, let's continue the conversation down in the comments below.